President Biden could launch his re-election bid as soon as tomorrow.
That's the 4-year anniversary of when he entered the 2020 race, and he's expected to release a video launching his 2024 candidacy.
All right, Fox 5, Sharon Crowley here now with a preview of what we can expect. Sharon.
Yeah, President Biden is going to be asking voters, so we think, for more time to finish what his administration has already started. It's expected to be a video announcement released on Tuesday. President Biden's age right now is seen as the biggest obstacle he's facing in his re-election bid.
Stay tuned.
President Biden is expected to announce Tuesday he's running for re-election. It comes just as a new NBC News poll shows 70% of Americans would prefer he not seek a second term. Voters appear to be concerned about his age. At 80, President Biden is already the oldest occupant of the Oval Office.
It's going to be very difficult to get around that. Your age is your age, so there's no explaining it away. Clearly, the contrast becomes important. If his opponent in the general election is Donald Trump, well, then there's not much of an age difference, and that kind of fades away as a major concern because you've got two elderly candidates. But if his opponent is a much younger person, that becomes a much more serious liability because of the contrast issues that age gap presents.
The same poll showing that 60% would rather former President Donald Trump not run either.
If there is a Trump-Biden rematch, I do think that the Democrats can pull that out because there's a lot to run against. But I imagine that for a lot of voters, it will also be there will be also some fatigue setting in because we've seen this play out before.
Beyond age, political strategists believe President Biden's job will be to remind voters about what he's already accomplished while in office.
I think the president needs to be able to defend his record. He has a number of things that he can defend, the lowest unemployment rate that we've had in generations in the United States, that he can talk about a successful emergence largely from the COVID pandemic.
He's still been able to get stuff done, and that's going to be the biggest selling point for his candidacy going forward.
Well, some Democratic strategists believe the president should infuse his campaign with younger, more energetic surrogates who can sell his record in terms voters can understand. And most also expect Vice President Kamala Harris to remain on the Biden 2024 ticket. We'll wait and see tomorrow, Natasha.
Yeah, we'll be watching, Sharon. Thank you.